Yo, welcome to the first edition of the Fatherhood series, which is titled The Pros and Cons of Being a Father in the 21st Century. This particular series, I am excited to do, I'm excited to get into, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. The reason why I'm excited about doing this video is because most of you all know that I am a father myself. I am a father of 7 children by 5 women. And being a man who has 7 children with 5 women, I understand the full range of fatherhood. I have children by what you would consider just a baby mama. I have children with a woman who I was casually dating. I have children with a woman who I was married to and divorced. And I have children with my current wife. So when it comes to being a father, no matter what aspect or avenue it is, I understand it. Even the parts about raising children outside of the household, raising children inside of the household. I have varying types of relationships with the women that I have children with. So when it comes to doing co-parenting, the great way, I have experience on doing that. Co-parenting with someone who's difficult, I have experience with doing that. Co-parenting with someone who's keeping your children away from you, I have experience with that. Co-parenting with someone who shares in the knowledge and understanding on the importance of a father being in a child's life, I have experience with that. Co-parenting with your wife and being on one accord. Even dealing with my ex-wife and my former marriage, co-parenting with an individual who you don't share the same mindset and y'all aren't on one accord. So I have that wide array of expertise when it comes to this fatherhood, and I want to share that expertise with you all today. So the purpose of this series is to help men who are fathers out in the world. I have actually been wanting to do this series for years, but I just didn't know how to go about doing it. However, this weekend I said, you know what? I'm just going to jump right into it and do it. So what initially got me to wanting to do this series, I had been talking to one of my good friends, and we've been friends since childhood, and he was saying that he admires my parenting style. And at that time, I was still struggling with accepting that I was a good father. So I didn't even see what he saw. I knew I was doing good things, but you have those internal voices and, those doubts about just who you are overall. And for me, being a father was one of those things. And so I asked him, well, what about you, and your child? Because he has a son. And he said, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, well, what's your plan? He said, bro, I don't have a plan. I just kind of just wake up and go, like how you're planning and you're doing these different things. I don't have that for my child. And when he said that, I didn't judge him. I immediately went into how can I help him? How can we fix this? So with that conversation, what it led me to do was start asking other men, well, what is it that you're trying to do and what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And all of those men had the same goal. The number one goal in the men that I talked to was that they wanted to provide financial stability and security for the children right now and in the future. But a lot of these men didn't know how. So I was like, okay, let me create something for fathers. Let me create some type of structure for fathers. And that's how I came up with this fatherhood series, because I wanted to let men know that you are not alone in where it is that you're at. Those feelings of inadequacy, those feelings of feeling like you're failing your children, feeling like you aren't doing enough, all of those negative feelings, you're not alone in those feelings. But what I want to let you know, along with letting you know that you're not alone in those feelings, is that not all of those feelings are true. So I'm going to get into today an interview style of questioning. That's what this series is going to be. I'm going to bring on fathers from all walks of life. And I'm going to be bringing you their wisdom and expertise, because I want to show you all the many faces of fatherhood. So today, I'm going to start this series off with interview style questions for myself. And then I'm going to interview different individuals from all walks of life who are fathers and bring you their perspective. So that way you can see, hey, there's someone else like me and this is what they did. Or you'll get some ideas on things that you can implement as a father if you are feeling a little lost or overwhelmed in your fatherhood journey. So I really want this series to help fathers out there kind of get a grasp on overall fatherhood, and more importantly, get the confidence that they need to be a father. It's very important for us to understand that we are the trendsetters for society. And the stronger that we are as fathers, the stronger that society will be. It's not a coincidence and it's not by accident that there is an attack on masculinity and an attack on fatherhood, because that's how you break down the nation. You break down the men. My prayer is that if you're a new father, a lost father, or a father just looking for some answers, some assistance, that this series helps you. So let's go ahead and get into it. My name is Virgil. I'm 35 years old, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have a business called Infrastructure of a Man, where I help men overcome anxiety and hopelessness through self-mastery. And I also use the DISC assessment to help men increase their income, improve their communication with their wives and spouses, and improve their mental and physical health. I would describe fatherhood as a blessing. One of the definitions of blessing is to flourish, multiply, and share your life-producing abilities with others. Going through the trials and tribulations of fatherhood has allowed me to build up the confidence in my skill set, in the confidence in who I am, as well as learning and knowing who I am, so that way I can pass those skills and gifts on to others and help others do the same thing. Some of the pros and highlights of fatherhood: one, being able to see the things that you instill in your children come to fruition. I can kind of gauge where I'm at and where my household is at based off of how my children in the household act. My children who live with my wife, my children that my wife and I have together, they're young, they're 2 and they're 3. They don't really have any influence from the outside world. They know us. It's literally 95% us. So if I start to see a certain trait or characteristic in them, I know what it is that they are getting from us. So I know how I need to adjust myself. For instance, if I notice that my children are starting to yell at each other a little more, then that lets me know that I've been frustrating and I've been yelling more. So all that means I need to be patient. When I see that my children are, acting more peaceful and docile, that means that I'm at a peaceful place, and my wife and I, our household is at a peaceful place. Or the barometer or measurement of where I'm at is the mirroring that my children show me on an everyday basis. They can't lie. What they reflect is exactly what they're getting from us. So if they're doing something that I'm not fond of or that I don't necessarily agree with, that means that I need to change something, or my wife and I, we need to change something in our household, so that way our children aren't reflecting what it is that they're seeing. One of the biggest cons for me as a father is living in a society where they task you with the responsibility of being a father, but they make you jump through hoops for the rights to be a father. And for those of y'all who may be confused about what that means, you have rights and responsibilities. And with rights and responsibilities, to be successful, you need both of them together. So when you have the responsibility of something, that means that you bear the burden of that thing's success. But when you have the rights to something, that means you have the controlling mechanism to make that thing thrive. So living in a society where we're tasked with the responsibilities of being a father, as in thinking about, let's just say, the child support system, there's no, and I know they're trying to do better, there's no reason that the child support system and the custody system should have been separate. You're tasking fathers with the responsibility of being a parent, but then you're saying that their input or their right to govern their children does not matter and is not important. And that's wrong. Because fathers represent order, structure, stability, and confidence. And there are lessons that we want to implement in our children in order to give them the confidence that they need, to instill the structure, order, and discipline that they need in their lives to be successful. But if you say as a society that your input is unimportant, well, then you create a generation of children who lack order, structure, discipline, and confidence. And if we look at society now, that's exactly what you see. The first low light that I have of fatherhood is not thinking out the full responsibility of fatherhood before having my children. Some other lowlights are lacking proper communication skills, having low emotional intelligence in my youth, and the biggest one, not choosing the right woman or women to have children with. My personal reason for why I was with a woman did not align with my view of raising children. And I think that was one of the biggest detriments and lowlifes of being a father. Being with a woman and not seeing the full relationship out, like everything that comes with that, not seeing the end in the beginning, operating in that lower state, in that primal state, that reactionary state, that, oh, this feels good state, not, okay, well, what is the outcome of this feeling? And what are all the things that can lead to it? Not doing a SWOT analysis of relationships. If you are someone who is thinking about being a father and you come across this video, please do a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Do a SWOT analysis of your relationship with the woman that you're with, and make sure that your relationship with her also aligns with how you want to parent and father your children. If not, you're going to be in a battle for a very long time with the woman. And that doesn't matter if you stay with her or you leave her. It's going to be a battle. The greatest lesson that I hope to instill in my children is that life is tough, but you're tougher. I want my children to understand that life is not going to be given to you. Life is supposed to have friction. Life is supposed to have resistance. And that's okay. There's a book, and it's so funny when I tell people this because people look at me, but sometimes when you know, you know. There's a book that is titled, The Obstacle is the Way. And the funny thing about that book is that when I first saw the title, I got everything I needed from that book, and I never read the book. As soon as I saw the title, The Obstacle is the Way, it was like an epiphany for me. Like, wait, hold on. I need to go to where the friction is at, because that's how you get to your goals, overcoming the challenges and the obstacles. Once that light bulb clicked, it was like, aha, here comes success. And that's what I want my children to understand. That like, no, you have to go through trials and tribulations, but you going through trials and tribulations does not mean you're weak. The trials and tribulations are there to build up your endurance, your patience, and your strength. So those trials and tribulations are there to prove you who you are, not to diminish who you are. So that's the biggest lesson that I want to instill into my children, that life is tough, but they are tougher. And no matter what it is that they go through, they are able to overcome it. So I have a few plans for my children. One of my first plans is to make sure that my children have an outline. I understand everybody kind of hits their stride in life at different times, and people may switch up what it is that they do, but I want to make sure that I teach my children at a young age what their strengths are, and that way they can kind of create an outline for their life. You don't have to stay in the same vehicle, but you would operate best if you use the same strength. So no matter what it is that you do, if you allow that your strength to lead it, you will always be led to success. The next thing is I want to make sure that I give my children a piece of property or a couple of pieces of property when they turn 18. That's one of my major goals, giving them a piece of property when they turn 18, and then also making sure that they all have $10,000 to $20,000 available for them when they turn 18. And this is very important for me because when I know when I turned 18, there wasn't anything there for me. And a lot of people think, well, that's good. That's how you became who you are. You had to go through your trials and tribulations. And my answer to that is, you're going to go through trials and tribulations regardless, because life is trials and tribulations. You're going to, just like a baby being born, whether the mother is sedated or whether the mother does a natural birth, she's still going to feel some discomfort. That's life. You can't bypass it. However, what I do know is that because there wasn't anything there for me when I was 18, I started off adulthood in survival mode. And the worst place that you can be in life is survival mode, because you don't think about how your actions are gonna build the foundations of your future. All you think about is the here and now, today, and what I can do today to make sure that I survive today. And that's very dangerous if you're trying to build a long-term plan. So I want to make sure that my children have an asset along with the skill, so that way they can always generate for themselves. But I want to make sure that they have assets that they can lean on, so that way they aren't being put in survival mode entering adulthood. When I entered adulthood, I was fortunate enough to go to school on a basketball scholarship. However, my basketball scholarship only covered tuition and books. It didn't cover anything else. So because it didn't cover anything else, I had to figure out how to make money outside of that. Now, not only did my parents, not have anything for me at all, not one thing, and those of y'all who know my story, my parents had me when they were 14 and 16. So I understand they were still trying to figure it out. However, I didn't have anything. And because I didn't have anything, I had to put myself in a situation to survive. And when you are in a survival situation, you greatly diminish your ability to thrive. So while I'm in college, I should have been focused on being the best basketball player that I could be and being the best student that I could be. This is why I say the survival worked against me. I had to work along with being a full-time student, taking 15 and 18 credit hours, and being a full-time collegiate athlete. For those of y'all who were former collegiate athletes, you understand that's a full-time job within itself. So I would have practice from 5 in the morning to 9 in the morning. And then I would have class all day. And then I would get out of class and I would have to go to weightlifting, and then we would have study hall. And then I would be able to go home and get a couple of hours of sleep. And then I would have to go to my night job from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Help me to understand how long-term, how was that a successful plan for me to thrive? I'm going to give you the answer. It wasn't, because I didn't. I ended up flunking majority of my classes a semester in my sophomore year and had to take up all these other classes in order to transfer to my 4-year university. But guess what? Here's the ironic thing. And I know a couple of you all are like, well, what about financial aid? At that time, when I was in college, your parents had to do your financial aid paperwork. My mother didn't do it. Whole story. So I had to work. I didn't even get financial aid. But here's the thing. When I finally was able to get my financial aid and my necessities were covered, I thrived. I made honor roll. I enjoyed school. I was able to actually learn in class. I didn't build bad habits when I had to take those classes. Or that's why it's important to me that my children have something, so that way they don't have to operate in survival mode. Because when I was me being in survival mode in college took away from my ability to concentrate on the goal, which was to graduate. I didn't graduate. Now, I'm not making excuses. If I didn't have to focus on my basic necessities of surviving, if my parents, being a child, implemented or had the forethought to think of at least covering my basic necessities entering adulthood, then I could have done my job and focused on thriving. But because I had to focus on my survival, I wasn't able to fully thrive. That spilled into the majority of my adulthood. That negative chain continued to add links further and further into the future until I got to the point where I could no longer carry the chain of failure. So that's why I want to make sure that I have this plan in place for my children. When they have a piece of land, they have a skill set that they can print money from, and they have $10,000 to $20,000 that they can pull from as an emergency fund, so that way they don't have to do anything crazy in order to keep moving forward. The last plan that I have for my children is to equip them with the fundamental knowledge of being successful. Wisdom comes from experiences in life, and that's something that you cannot bypass. But wisdom hurts a lot less when you already have the fundamentals of success programmed inside of you. Like I stated earlier in the example, life is already difficult. We make it even harder by adding unnecessary trials and tribulations. However, if you equip your children with the fundamentals of being successful, no matter what they go through in life, they're going to always find their way back to the top. So I know for me, I want to make sure that I instill the fundamentals of success into my children. So that way, no matter what trials and tribulations they go through to gain wisdom, eventually they'll always make their way back to the top with the least amount of damage done. I want to leave you all with this Bible verse about children. It comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 127, verse 3 through 5. And it reads, "Children are an inheritance of the Most High, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that have his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. Gentlemen, children are not a burden, but a blessing. The Most High rewards parents with children who help them achieve victories over all of life's challenges. The father of many children is blessed, and children help provide protection against every enemy that threatens the family security. I can say that a lot of the knowledge and wisdom that I have gleaned has come from the challenges that has come from my children and the interaction with something related around them. And if you look at any other culture outside of the Western culture, they understand the concept of how important children are. We need to make sure that we understand that our children are a blessing and they're not a curse. No matter how expensive they are, no matter how much they test your nerves and your patience, all of the challenges that you go through because of, with, through, or for your children, it's something there to help improve you. If you feel like your children are too expensive, you need to enter into a creative state on how you can creatively generate greater income and allow your children to be the motivating factor in you obtaining that. It's easy to sit around and complain about how hard things are, but it's a greater reward when you put your hand to the plow and do the work to improve it. So I want to leave you all with this. Keep digging. Don't stop, because you never know when you might hit pay dirt. Until next time, I see you all again.